Hello everybody. As you may be aware, we have been traveling to Trier recently. It is located in a valley between low vine-covered hills of red sandstone at the bank of the Moselle. It is in Germany close to the border with Luxembourg. We traveled there since we wanted to learn more about the end of the Roman Empire and the start of the Middle Ages in this part of Europe. By the way, for those people traveling by camper, we stayed at Weingut George Fritz von Nell. A perfect place to stay, right in between the grapes. In Trier we were lucky enough to run into Emperor Constantine. He was so kind to be our guide, like he is for this episode on culture-lovers.eu. For those who do not know, Constantine lived from 272 till 337 AD. By the way, many people refer to him as Constantine the Great. He was the Roman emperor that embraced Christianity. So, let's welcome Constantine the Great.
Thank you, Don Quixote, thank you. I am happy to share a bit more about Trier's history. Trier, the Germanic city at the bank of the river Moselle, is very close to my heart. Trier is a city that goes back to well before the Roman times. Its name refers to that. When Julius Caesar conquered the area with his Gallic wars, about 50 BC, it was already a city inhabited by the Treveri. We, Romans, started to build on there just before 16 BC and called it Augusta Treverorum, or the city of Augustus in the land of the Treveri. Emperor Augustus chose the city to be the capital of the province of Belgica after the division of the Roman provinces in Germany in 16 BC. At the end of the 1st century, my predecessors constructed an amphitheatre. This was a clear sign on how important the city was already at that time. Half a century later, a giant Roman circus was built as well, only to add to the splendor of the city. As the capital of the Gallia Belgica province, Trier gained prominence during the crisis that the empire experienced in the 3rd century. Trier served as the capital once more under the emperors Tetricus I and II. Also, at the end of the 3rd century, Trier became one of the most important cities of the Gallic Empire. The Gallic Empire was established by the Roman commander Marcus Cassianius Latinius Postumus around 260 AD. It functioned as a de facto independent state within the Roman Empire, at a time that the whole Roman Empire was in crisis. Assault by confederation of Germanic tribes, the so-called Alemanni, obliterated Trier in 275 and ended the Gallic Empire. The Gallic Empire was brought back under the governance of the Rome. During those days, Trier got also its first bishop, Eucharius. According to the legend, it was Saint Peter himself that had sent him to the land of the Rhine to proclaim the faith in Christ. Somewhere around the days of Emperor Diocletian, who ruled from 284 till 305, the unclarity about how the empire was run ended. Diocletian implemented the so-called tetrarchy, with which he divided the empire in 4 major regions, each with its own co-emperor. My father, Constantius I, became responsible for the western provinces, that is Gaul, and Britannia. He turned Trier into the capital of his districts. Just before my father passed away in 306, he organized that I would be declared to be emperor by a key legion based in Britannia. The whole way that the succession went was not accepted by the other co-emperors, which led to conflicts within the Tetrarchy. These conflicts ended in 312 with my victory in the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This bridge is a bridge over the Tiber just north of Rome. As a result, the Tetrarchy ended and I became emperor of the western half of the Roman Empire. During my reign, Trier was rebuilt, that is, I finished the rebuilding process that my father had begun. The remains of the stadium, the amphitheatre, Aula Palatina, now known as the Constantine Basilica, and the imperial baths can still be seen today. Also, the Trier Cathedral and the Lieb Frauenkirche are full of remnants of this era. Trier retained its importance to the Roman Empire till the invasion of the Vandals, Alans and Suebi in 407. From that moment on, control over the Trier region was disputed on a regular basis. It was several times attacked by the Franks and the Huns. Around 485, Trier became officially under control of the Franks. During this century, Trier lost most of its inhabitants. Its population dropped from about 80,000 to only 5,000. Under control of Charlemagne, the region became part of the Holy Roman Empire. When Charlemagne died, Charlemagne's son Louis the Pious took over. Unfortunately, Louis was not capable, and the empire was seriously weakened. When Louis died, the empire was split up and divided over his three sons. Trier became part of the Kingdom of Lorraine. This was organized in the Treaty of Verdun in 843. After the death of Lothair II, the ruler of Lorraine, in 870, Trier moved into Henry I's East Frankish Empire. This empire, that was the most eastern part of the legacy of Louis the Pious, would later become known as Germany. In parallel to these developments, Trier also played an important role in the church. According to the legend, my mother, Helena, organized that some of the remains of the Apostle Matthias were brought to Trier. His effigy over his grave can still be visited. It is in the Abbey of St. Matthias. Okay, I just noticed that I haven't paid too much tribute to the many of the important buildings that you still can visit in Trier. In the following, I share a bit more on the famous Porta Nigra, the Roman Bridge, the Trier Cathedral, the Lieb Frauenkirche, and the Aula Palatine. This does not mean that you should not visit all the other beautiful buildings and Roman archaeological sites to learn more about Trier's history. Let me first tell you more about the Porta Nigra. The Porta Nigra, which means the Black Gate, goes back to 170 AD and was built by the Romans using grey sandstone at the north side of the city. Quite large. It wasn't demolished during the Middle Ages since the building was incorporated in a church. In 1802, it was Napoleon that demolished the church and brought back the original building. Around the same time, the Romans did build a stone bridge over the Moselle. The 9 bridge pillars are still the original ones from Roman times. I have crossed that bridge many times. The High Cathedral of St. Peter in Trier goes back to the 4th century. Actually, I did start to build it. But as you can expect, it has changed a lot over the last 16 centuries. The original design was about 4 times as big. As a starting point for the church, we used my mother's palace. The building suffered a lot by attacks of the Franks, and also the Vikings did in 882 a serious attempt to demolish it, so what you see today is mostly the result of the rebuild that was executed in the 9th, 10th and 11th century. The cathedral has also some very important relics. It has, for instance, the so-called Holy Tunic, which is a robe that was said to be worn by Jesus shortly before his crucifixion. It has also a holy nail, that is one of the nails that was used to crucify Christ. It has my mother's skull, a sandal from St. Andrew, shackles from the chain from St. Peter, etc., etc. It shows the importance of this place. Directly next to the cathedral you find the Church of Our Lady, from the first half of the 13th century. This Gothic church has been constructed by French architects. It is very interesting to see the difference in atmosphere between the cathedral and the Church of Our Lady. As a last building, I would love to spend a few words on what is referred to as my basilica, or the Aula Palatina. The construction of this giant building started during the reign of my father Constantius. Although it is about 1,700 years old, It still feels very modern, and its size is impressive. It is still in use as church and concert hall. Just think about it, 1,700 years old. Okay, I think I'll leave it with this. You must be bored by these stories. I suggest you go there and enjoy the city in all its splendor. Cheers, and hope to see you there.
Thank you, Emperor, thank you. I am happy that you introduced us to Trajan and the complexities in Europe when the power from Rome was not a given anymore. Very interesting. It is also interesting to learn how you and your mother played a key role in introducing the Christian belief to Western Europe. For those interested in these stories, feel free to subscribe and give us a thumb up. We simply continue on our quest trying to learn more about Europe. Cheers, and see you next time.